programming on Montana PBS is made possible in part by viewers like you. And by Davis Brothers Auction, a Montana-based modern age auction house with the knowledge and technology to help you purchase, consign, and sell your valuables. Online at davisbrothersauction.com.
This is the story of an artifact. No one knows quite how many artifacts have been created in the history of mankind, but needless to say that there have been very, very many. From little Tommy Price's ideal slingshot, and Mrs. Miranda's decisively demonstrative damask doily, to young Peppina Peshlikai's perfect pre-teen pinup. Each is an ideal representation and definitive example of something truly important to its creator, an object against which all others can be measured. However, there are only a handful of artifacts that have been used as references by everyone. Standards so essential that their very existence underpins the functioning of our world. Some were used to define lengths, or volume, or time. Most have come and gone. But the one that defines what things weigh, their mass, still remains. Secured in a subterranean vault, locked by 3 separate keys. Hidden from view, an unchanging constant in an ever-changing world. Until now. History is about to be made. Representatives of over 100 nations, from Indonesia to Egypt, are here to solve a crisis. They've put in millions of hours of effort, accomplishing engineering feats more complex than the moon landing. These humble men and women aren't businessmen or politicians. But their actions here will fundamentally change every aspect of our lives, from economics to medicine. Today, they will literally redefine the world as we know it.
We're trying to get rid of a kilogram.
But to understand what the kilogram actually is and why they are so keen to get rid of it, we should really start this story at the beginning. From the moment of our conception, through every aspect of our lives, from the inconsequential to the life-determining, the high points and the low, right up to the very end. Everything about our existence is weighed and measured. We are a species obsessed with quantifying things because objective measurements ensure everyone is dealt a fair hand in life. But that's a lot easier said than done. Luckily for us, there are hundreds of people in different countries, spread out across the globe, working out the best ways to weigh and measure everything. They are normal people with hopes, dreams, hobbies, and desires. Just like you or me, but with one minor difference. These men and women are the tellers of time, the masters of mass, the safeguarders of standards. They are metrologists.
Metrology is really very, very important for industrial and the society.
If there were no metrologists, we would have no measurement system.
And we do crazy stuff. We measure glossiness of cats. We measure the acoustical crunches of biscuits.
We measure the fastest speed. And we measure the smallest distance. And we measure the largest volume.
Metrology is the science or the art of measurement.
It means measuring things as in normal life, but pushing this measurement to the limits of technology.
For centuries, metrologists have been working away around the clock to ensure that there are, in fact, accurate clocks to work around and consistent rulers to measure with and equitable masses to weigh.
I think our motto should be, we worry about it so you don't have to.
But there is a problem that metrologists are worried about. The weight of everything on the planet has been changing. The change is so small few would even notice, less than the weight of a grain of sand. But they have.
No one really knows why it was happening, so that means no one can stop it, really. That's alarming.
It doesn't sound important, but with pharmaceuticals, that could be the difference between helping someone or hurting them.
So now it is up to the world's finest metrologists to shoulder the heavy burden. Together, they need to redefine the weight of the world, fix it for all time. But time is not on their side. The clock is ticking. In a little over a year, hundreds of delegates from around the world will travel to the General Conference on Weights and Measures in Versailles, expecting a solution to this weighty problem.
It's not enough to work day and night.
It's a scramble. It will be tight for us hitting the deadline.
To succeed, they need to complete one of the most difficult experiments in the world, ranked second only to the search for the infamous God particle.
I think it's fair to say that the number of people that are involved, it's ridiculously hard, and it's really great work over many, many years.
But to solve this problem, they'll need to shift the foundation of our entire measurement system. To understand why requires a trip back to Paris. More specifically, to an intergovernmental organization known as BIPM, or the International Bureau of Weights and Measures.
BIPM, we are one of the oldest technical international organisations in the world. We're here in France, but we're not French.
It is led by Director Martin Milton, assisted by a team of staff including Dr. Estefania de Mirandes and Dr. Richard Davis. The BIPM uses its impartial status to act as an international guardian of metrology, ensuring measurements are consistent accurate, and fair for all. And they are the curators of a truly extraordinary achievement of mankind. A list, or rather a system, of definitions. Le Système International, or the SI for short. It's a simple list, distilling all the essential properties of our world into just 7 definitions of base standard units.
It's because we share this system of units that it gets its power. It means we can compare things in all the countries on Earth easily and transparently.
The meter, the second, the mole. These are the essential standards to which all our rulers, clocks, thermometers, and scales can be calibrated.
That provides the basis for all the types of measurement that one needs for science and society and for quality of life.
I love the SI. I really love it. And the reason I love it is because it has humanity stamped all over it.
Do you know how many languages are spoken on our planet? Do you have a feeling of that? Huh?
300.
300? No, 3,000. 3,000 different languages. And it is very complicated for one group of people to communicate with another group of people. And so, to have a universal language in measurement, that's a global story. And that's very, very beautiful.
But there is a problem with the SI. One hidden in plain sight. The kilogram. A fundamental unit of the SI is simply defined as
the mass of a kilogram is equal to the mass of the international prototype of the kilogram.
Mass is still tied to a single artifact in the world, to a hunk of metal in Paris.
the international prototype of the kilogram, or IPK, Le Grand K, the last artifact. The hunk of metal has many names, yet it is utterly unique and absolutely irreplaceable. It is an object that literally defines the weight of everything else in the world. Few will ever have the chance to see something this priceless, except on a day like today. A small platinum iridium cylinder, standing only 39 millimeters tall, it is not a particularly impressive object to look at.
You have all these bell jars which surround it. So you see this little thing just in a safe. From one side you are excited, and the other side, yeah, just a piece of metal.
I mean, it's a strange thing. How do you get excited about a small piece of metal in that way? But it's what it stands for.
Anything that you weigh, from an apple in a grocery store to drugs at a pharmacy, eventually goes back to this prototype in Paris. And it's an elaborate system of traceability that we have to that enables us to get accurate weights for everything that we use and buy and sell in the world.
Held in vaults across the world are hundreds of copies of the kilogram. None are exactly identical, but all are calibrated precisely against the original.
So, for example, if you stand on a scale, it will give you a weight, and you need to know if that weight is the right weight. So that scale has been calibrated against another scale, which in turn has been calibrated against another scale, and it runs all the way back. And the top scales will be calibrated against a kilogram. And that kilogram in turn is calibrated and measured against the IPK, kept in BIPM, which is the kilogram, which is the standard that all standards are compared to.
And this is the source of our weight-related problems.
This is what the kilogram, the international prototype of the kilogram looks like. Now, I'm handling it with my hands. By definition, the mass of the international prototype kilogram is the definition of the kilogram. That means if you put a fingerprint on it, it's still a kilogram, and everything else in the universe has less mass. That's a ridiculous situation to be in.
And that's not the only issue.
It's a man-made object, so an artifact.
Everything that humans make as a standard decays. Everything, as soon as it's made, it's beginning to decay and change and evolve. Everything is decaying.
Since it was forged, the IPK and its replicas have deviated from one another by about 50 micrograms, or the mass of a single eyelash, shifting the world's weight with them.
We do not know whether the prototype, the artifact, is losing its weight or is accumulating its weight.
There's a fundamental problem with having an artifact that defines the standard against which everything else in the world is compared. You want it to be isolated and kept separate, but as the source of all the weighings in the world, you want it to be used practically.
In order to solve the problem of the world's shifting weight, there is only one solution.
So we're dumping the lump, we're changing the system.
But that's not as simple as it sounds. The kilogram is a fundamental interlinked part of the SI units, which means to redefine it, you have to redefine the SI. You have to change the way the world measures almost everything.
I always feel like if humanity is going to change something, go big.
To understand how we got into this situation in the first place and how we can fix it, we should really start this story at the beginning.
The Last Artifact will return shortly. Your support makes programs like this possible. So don't go away. There's much more of The Last Artifact yet to come. And in fact, we will redefine the SI telling this story. But first, we're going to take just a few moments to, first of all, thank you for watching Montana PBS and for watching this film. And also give you some behind-the-scenes peeks of how this film was made. And we're also going to meet the filmmakers themselves who came up with a creative way to tell this story. Supporting Montana PBS as you do now by watching and pledging makes programs like The Last Artifact possible. Great science films here on Montana PBS, whether it's programs like this one we have produced ourselves or whether it's programs like Nova, which you watch every week on this station. Please call the number you see there on your screen right now. We'll be back in just a few moments to meet the producers of this film. But first, the number to call is 1-800-426-8243. When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with two books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab. When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, the measure of all things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of the Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS.
Hi, I'm Nikki Bradenberg, Director of Education at Montana PBS. It is my pleasure to work with teachers across the state of Montana to support them as they use digital media and technology in their classrooms. I know teachers will watch The Last Artifact and instantly want to know how they can use this film in their classrooms. We're proud to share our free website for teachers, pbslearningmedia.org. We have a collection of resources that goes along with The Last Artifact, where teachers can use clips from the film, images, lesson ideas, and discussion questions to share this film with their students. Go to pbslearningmedia.org and search for The Last Artifact to find it. We know teachers rely on digital media to bring science alive for their students. When I was teaching, I often worried that I didn't quite have the content knowledge to help my students understand some of the more specific science topics, especially the more complex ones. I relied heavily on digital media, videos and images to help my students understand things, see things up close, to take them on trips that we couldn't quite get to on a field trip. Digital media provides learning and experiences for students all over the state of Montana and all over the country. We're able to bring these resources to students in Montana because of donations from members like you. Your donation today helps us to continue bringing digital media to classrooms across the state of Montana. Give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online and pledge today at montanapbs.org. Thank you.
If you're wondering how a creative film like The Last Artifact is made, well, we have a treat for you. We're going to be able to meet today via Zoom the producers of this film, The Last Artifact. And the wonders of Zoom allow us to bring in Ed Watkins from Bristol, England, on his headsets there. Hi, Ed. And Jamie Jacobson, the producer as well from Colorado, who is teaching there. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for making this film. It's such a fun and special film for us, and we're delighted that we're able to present it here on Montana PBS, and also that we're able to produce educational pieces around it, and that we're able to use those on learning media, which we just learned about. I'm curious, Jamie, I know you were the one that first came and spoke to us about making this film some years ago. Tell me a little bit about why you've made this film.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Well, I think it stems back to, I should say that Ed and I both, we actually met in Montana, although we're both elsewhere at the moment, and we were part of Montana State University's Masters of Fine Arts program in Science and Natural History Filmmaking, which is kind of a mouthful, but it trains people who have a background in science how to tell compelling science stories via documentary and other forms of nonfiction media. And so this is, this is our area, kind of science film. And Ed actually was, is kind of on all sorts of science bulletins and reading up on breakthroughs and discoveries. And he called me one day and he said, Jamie, I've just heard about this amazing opportunity to make a documentary about kind of a quirky topic, the redefinition of the kilogram. And what do you think? And so, for me, it was just an opportunity. I immediately thought of Aaron and Montana PBS because I've worked with the station as an independent producer on several different projects. And what a great way to inform people across the state of Montana, and in fact, across the country through national PBS distribution of, learning more about the way our world functions, how we weigh and measure things, a topic that is so, not normally at the forefront of our minds, but really underpins the functioning of our society. So it just seemed like a really incredible opportunity, and I couldn't think of anyone that I'd rather work with more on this project than Ed and Aaron and Montana PBS.
Well, I'm so glad, Jamie, that you brought up the fact that this is a Montana State University project and it's connected to the MFA program, which many people here in Montana may not realize that the Montana Masters of Fine Arts program in Science and Natural History Filmmaking is right here in the same building as Montana PBS in Bozeman. And while we're visiting with you, Ed, from Bristol, England today, I know you spent a lot of time and you've developed those creative filmmaking skills that you've presented on screen for us, but you garnered a lot of those skills right here in Bozeman, Montana at MSU. But I'm curious, what about this particular subject? Jamie said you read about it. What made you think, there's a film here?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm always looking for interesting, quirky topics. That's kind of what I'm interested in most. And I read about this, and it's a small topic that opens up very broad, which is kind of always what I look for in films. And this just kind of caught my eye. It's about something that's quite obscure. It's not something you'd typically put on TV, generally. It was about the redefining of a kilogram, which most people probably have never thought about where a kilogram is or where it comes from or what it even is. And it was just this opportunity to kind of take a deep dive into something very odd and scientific and perhaps make it fun and interesting for people to learn about. And that's kind of what I really enjoy doing, is taking science and broadening it out and making it relevant to people. So yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity, and we thought it was worth giving it a go, and PBS was the perfect venue to kind of to do that. It gave us an opportunity, a venue to explore something that you normally wouldn't.
And I think, that's something that public television has done for a long time through the series Nova. We've had a commitment to science on public broadcasting, and not just the Nova series, but many other science programs over the years. And I love the fact that you saw this as an opportunity to take science but broaden it to a wider audience and make it accessible to all people, and not to give away a great quote that's coming along a little bit later in the film, although I'll go ahead and give it away because I think it's so connects with what you just said, is that one of the scientists speaks about how he loves the SI because it has humanity's stamp all over it. And it's just, I think it really gets to, what you were speaking about of why to make a film like this, because it is a human story as much as it is about science as well. Well, we'll be coming back to visit with you both a little bit more about your approach to making this film. It presented some unique challenges, and we'll talk a little bit about how you overcame some of those challenges. But first, we have another message again about how you, as our viewers of Montana PBS, can support this station, support great science films like The Last Artifact. The number is there right on your screen. Give us a call at 1-800-426-8243. When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with two books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab. When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, The Measure of All Things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of The Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS.
Thank you for watching Montana PBS. Remember, you can call now at 1-800-426-8243 or make a pledge online at montanapbs.org. Now let's get back to The Last Artifact on Montana PBS.
Measuring is a really simple idea, and humans have been doing it since time immemorial.
If we go back to antiquity, thousands of years ago, people measured things with stones and grains to make standards.
These consistent measuring references revolutionized fair trade. And naturally, people gravitated towards standards everyone could access that were also close at hand, like a hand, or an eye, or arm. But these seemingly democratic standards had their own potential for shortchanging.
If you measure a horse, you can measure it in hands. If you measure a horse and I measure a horse, we're going to get a different size horse.
So many ancient rulers created empire-wide stable standards of measures.
So, for example, in ancient Egypt, the cubit was the length of measure, and that was the distance between the elbow and the tip, or sometimes between the elbow and the tip of the finger plus a hand. But those guys realized this wasn't going to let them build the pyramids to the kind of accuracy that they needed to do. So they made a standard.
Standardized artifact measures, like cubits, allowed those in power to better build, govern, and tax their empires.
Where you can compare something measured in one place with something measured at another time in another place. And then measurement becomes really, really powerful.
But over the centuries, these measurement standards only multiplied and massively muddled metrology through the creation of more and more units.
Pounds, ounces, pile, Charlemagne, the yard, avoirdupois, du poids, shaku, pint,
ells,
miles,
feet,
a shekel,
the inch.
By the 18th century, the list was so lengthy that some traders were dealing with 800 different units of measurement and 250,000 definitions for them, many of which weren't comparable. And these inequities stirred up some serious discontent amongst the masses. We all know the role that tea and taxes played in the American Revolution. But it could be equally said that baguettes and bakers played a role in the French Revolution just a few years later.
One of the very worst things that the revolutionaries were concerned about in revolutionary France, they were concerned about the lack of fairness with measurements.
Bread was the main component of the French working-class diet. The average 18th century worker spent half their hard-earned dough on it. It was so important, the king controlled all aspects of bread production, including the price of loaves. With France in the middle of a historic famine and different standard units of measure in each village, weights could be fiddled. So people were often paying the same for less, and the poor had no way to prove this was happening. The peasants were hangry and revolting.
France was in turmoil. It began with the execution of the king and ended with the accession of Napoleon.
Obviously, the causes of the revolution were far more complicated than the price of bread. But it's fair to say it rather brought things to a head.
When the revolutionaries took over, it was recognized that one of their priorities would be to put in place a measurement system that was going to be fair.
On the 7th of April, 1795, true to their word,
à tous les temps, à tous les peuples.
At all times, to all people, the metric system was formally enshrined in French law.
This idea of a democratic approach to measurement, this wasn't tied to the length of the king's foot or something like that.
Instead, they turned back to constants found in nature, but in a much more scientific and global way.
They were going to use the Earth itself.
Anybody could access the circumference of the Earth, and nobody could change the circumference of the Earth.
For example, a meter would be a fraction of the planet's circumference. But at the time, this proved too difficult to measure precisely and consistently. So they decided to create physical points of reference for these new units. They made artifacts. The original artifacts of the metric revolution are now locked away in the Archives Nationales.
Et une des premières décisions de l'Assemblée nationale a été de créer le mètre. One of the first decisions of the National Assembly was to create first the meter and then the kilogram.
They defined a new unit of mass that was the mass of a liter of water, and they called that the kilogram.
Et il a été tout de suite. And this is the first prototype of what we call le kilogramme des archives. It was made at the end of the 18th century, fabricated in platinum.
Under the French Revolution, citizens could be involved in the decision-making process of the unit. It's a kind of democracy.
Among the things that people were thinking about was liberté, égalité, fraternité. And part of this was that the system of measurement should be something that should be accessible to everybody.
And that has been the mass system that we've maintained for years, and it has worked. It has served us well.
But if it's not broken, why fix it? Well, apart from the possibilities of damage to or theft of an irreplaceable artifact, metrologists are thinking about the future.
Redefinition allows us many things. Two that come to mind. One is we freeze any potential drift in the mass of this artifact. Then it allows us to go from the quantum level to the cosmic level without changing scales or units.
Most science and a lot of technology is developed when we solve a measurement challenge. Having better access to better definitions and better measurement techniques actually propels the rest of society and its scientific progress forward.
And that brings us to the next step, which is to replace the present definition of the kilogram with something that's not an object.
Something that doesn't change with time, that doesn't get destroyed, something that you can reproduce everywhere, anywhere in the world.
We have faced this kind of situation repeatedly in metrology. It used to be that a second was 1/24 times 60 times 60 of a day. The trouble is that by the early 20th century, it was clear that a day was not a constant thing. And that realization meant that we had to change the definition of time.
And they did this by using what metrologists call fundamental constants.
Fundamental constant does not change. It's a universally constant.
Today, the definition of time is based on atomic standards. It's based on the unchanging frequencies of atoms.
And like the second, fundamental constants have been used to redefine other units of the SI.
Originally, for the meter, it used to be a meter stick. Now it's based on the speed of light in a vacuum.
Which sounds like it isn't a profound change, but it actually is an incredibly profound change.
This moves the reference for objective reality off of a man-made artifact and onto an unchanging constant of the universe.
In the case of the kilogram, we're moving from an artifact to basically an equation.
But unlike the speed of light, there is no obvious fundamental constant to redefine mass. Cue two obscure but promising candidates, one from chemistry, the other from physics. The teams representing each are tackling the same kilogram-sized problem. But a little friendly competition never hurts.
It's very challenging, and then it's competitive too.
There was national pride at stake.
Everyone wants to be the lab that changes the face of the kilogram.
One group set out to define the kilogram using the Avogadro constant.
Of course, there is a competition. Of course, that is the power who brings us further.
The other using the Planck constant.
One of the things that makes metrology unique is we rely on other people repeating our measurements.
Rivalry in metrology is extremely useful. People will go out of their way to think of new ways of doing things, and some of them will survive, some of them won't.
Both routes would push the teams to the limits of what's possible. The first candidate is a fundamental constant from chemistry, the Avogadro constant. Named after the early 19th century Italian scientist Amedeo Avogadro, the Avogadro constant is currently defined by the SI as the number of atoms in 1 mole. No, not that kind of mole. The mole is a unit that describes the amount of substance that is equal to the number of atoms in 12 grams of carbon-12. This is currently calculated to be 602 sextillion, 214 quintillion, 85 quadrillion, 774 trillion atoms. To put that into perspective, that's 80,000 times more atoms than there are grains of sand in all the beaches, deserts, and sand pits of the entire world. To further complicate things, those 12 grams are still defined by the IPK. So why then, posited scientists, can't we do the reverse? Use Avogadro's constant to define the kilogram. One of the teams tackling this is the Physikalisch-Technische Bundesanstalt in Germany.
The PTB is a very accurate, organized little machine. Not that little.
It's home to team members including PhD student Edita Bayer, physicist and fossil hunter Ingo Busch, and physicist, engineer, and precision marksman Arnold Nikolaus. They're working with the National Metrology Institute of Japan to build cutting-edge technology to crack this Avogadro endeavor. Here, team members, including prime senior researcher and pianist Kenichi Fuji, surface and nanoanalysis group physicist and flower arranger Lulu Zhang, mass standards group leader and weightlifter Naoki Kuramoto, are led by Director General and avid motorcyclist Takashi Usada.
When I'm hearing the great symphony encourages me to invent something new.
Both teams are aiming to redefine the kilogram as an equation by measuring the value of Avogadro's constant more precisely and more accurately than ever before. And they custom make the perfect tools for the job.
I'm working with the roundest object on the Earth, which is made from the purest silicon on the Earth.
And machining them is no walk in the park. Mechanical engineer Rudolf Mies has spent years perfecting the process.
In the first steps, we remove several grams per hour. But in the end, the removal rate is just 1 nanometer per minute, and takes 3 months to produce a sphere.
The result is an almost perfect sphere of almost perfect purity, and a price tag of several $1 million per sphere. Luckily for the Avogadro team, these spheres aren't irreplaceable artifacts like the IPK. Rather, they are just astoundingly accurate, if expensive, tools.
The silicon sphere is much more than just a mass standard. It is a counting machine for atoms.
New spheres can be made, but their perfection is priceless. It allows them to be measured to previously unfathomable precision and determine the exact number of atoms inside each one. But there are so many atoms inside that if you could count them at a speed of 10 million atoms per second, it would take you 68 billion years, or about 5 times longer than the universe has existed. So they use their sphere's remarkable shape and structure to calculate Avogadro's constant instead.
Imagine we have a truck full of oranges. So we measure the truck, that's the volume of the sphere. We measure the volume of an orange, that's the volume of the atom. And together with the information about the inside organization of the oranges, we know exactly how many oranges are inside, and we can determine our Avogadro constant.
With their perfect spheres and meticulous measurement, the Avogadro project aren't pulling their punches. But there is another heavyweight contender competing in the kilogram redefinition ring: the Planck constant.
The Last Artifact will return shortly. Your support makes programs like this possible.
Don't worry, we're going to come back to this film in just a few minutes and make sure that you can see which of these methods wins out in the redefinition of the kilogram. But first, we have an opportunity to visit with our filmmakers of The Last Artifact. There's Jamie Jacobson and Ed Watkins joining us from a long distance and to talk a little bit about the making of this film. Ed, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you're doing today and where you're visiting us from?
Yeah, sure. I'm calling from Bristol in the UK. It's nighttime at the moment. But yeah, at the moment, I'm currently working on a new series, wildlife series, and carrying on work in all sorts of interesting big animals and small animals, rather than particles and mass standards this time.
And Jamie?
Yes. So I'm down in Fort Collins, Colorado at the moment, and I currently teach at Colorado State University, and I'm in the journalism and media communication department. So right now, for example, I'm teaching documentary production, and I'm also working on an effort to build and expand a Center for Science Communication on campus. So I think that's something really exciting that we're looking forward to creating moving forward.
Well, we'll come back and spend a little bit more time with you to talk with both of you about the making of this particular film. But it's such a treat to have both of you here and to know that Montana is nurturing and creating these great filmmakers. I know there's a couple others that are not with us right now that also had a big hand in this film, graduates of the MFA program here at Montana State University, Bozeman. Rick Smith, the photographer for this film, the beautiful photography. It is really a treat to watch it. And I know also that your wife, Stephanie, was involved in editing the film. Is that right, Ed?
She was indeed, yes.
Yep, and she's busy editing on something else right now, and both of you keep them busy. But who knew that here in Montana, here at MSU, that we are making science filmmakers of this caliber? If you didn't know, well, we're doing it, and here's the proof of it, this beautiful film you're watching right now. We'd love to have you get a copy of this program if you're interested in supporting Montana PBS, and we hope you will support science filmmaking here at Montana State University as well as at Montana PBS. The number to call is 1-800-426-8243. When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with two books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab.
When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, The Measure of All Things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of The Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS.
I know that both of you said one of the challenges as you first thought about this film was that so much of the science had happened already. It was a complicated subject to put on screen and explain to any audience, and then it was happening all over the world. And you approached that with some things that I think are so fun. There's humor in this film. There's a lot of what we call recreations, but tell me a little bit more. Maybe, Ed, would you start in terms of why you chose those methods and how you think they work?
Sure. I mean, this was always going to be an interesting topic to do. It's very obscure. It's very niche. And those things don't necessarily make for great television. When you put them on paper, they don't sound particularly fun. So one of our main goals was to take this topic and to broaden it out, to make it interesting, to try and hook people with a way that, makes them want to watch and follow along. Because it is a fantastic story. I mean, it starts off tiny and it encompasses the whole world by the very end. So one of the things we were looking at is what kind of films use these styles to take you in a journey, and we use quite a few of those, and we use kind of humor to bring people along, because often science is very serious. So to make science engaging, one of the things you can do is to make it light, to make it interesting. So that's one of the things that was at the forefront of our minds when we started. The other was visuals. I mean, a lot of science is always portrayed in quite a standard fashion, and what we wanted to do is give this a very rich, very visual look to it. We wanted people to want to watch it for the sake of watching it, not just the sake of listening along. So I think those were the things that initially guided us, and then we had some more quirky things. I mean, Jamie can talk a little bit more about some of the other techniques we used to kind of draw the audience in and make it more engaging than it would normally have sounded.
Jamie, you dove into the characters of the humans behind this science, and I think that was a particularly interesting decision.
Yeah, one of our main goals in the start of the filmmaking process was to just form close relationships with the scientists and portray them as human beings that have lives and interests and hobbies outside of just the lab and the studies they're doing. And we were really curious as to who are these people who are metrologists who measure things over and over and over, and what makes them tick. And we found out that they were pianists and they were bakers and they were guitar players and all these really fascinating things. So that was something that was really just fascinating for us, is to see kind of their other side beyond the workplace. And then we also, instead of using fancy animations to bring the science to life, we really had fun in the studio with bringing children and everyday objects in, basically placing them on tables and working with them with their hands and coming up with just really fun, quirky, simple explanations for how the actual science behind the redefinition works, which I think was quite lovely and visual.
So effective, and I remember coming up to this very studio that I'm sitting in now and watching some of the recreations you're doing with children, and with a woman in a wedding dress, one of our staff members actually who got a cameo. A number of our staff members got to do cameos of their hands, and one of our staff was pregnant at the time, and it was fun to see how you made this a very human story, and these beautiful recreations that Rick shot in the studio, but they took a lot of work. So our audience may not realize what it takes to build a film like this and to put all of that on the screen and to make science accessible. It's something we're really proud of, and we think The Last Artifact is a great example of that. We hope you're enjoying the film. We'll go back to it in just a few moments. But first, please consider supporting Montana PBS. The number is there on your screen. It is 1-800-426-8243.
Hi, I'm Nikki Vredenberg, Director of Education at Montana PBS. I love this film because it features scientists working together to solve scientific problems. I always think about the fact that these scientists were once kids themselves, full of curiosity and wonder, which makes me think of all the amazing kids we've had an opportunity to work with in our community programs at Montana PBS. Our team visits schools and community centers across the state to support STEM learning for kids in their classrooms to learn about the fundamentals of computer science using a free app called PBS Kids Scratch Junior. We work with kids in their classrooms and after schools with their families. We also go to libraries and host hands-on workshops with families so kids and their parents can get on the floor and discover STEM together. They use recyclable materials to design solutions to problems and have fun learning and laughing together. We are able to bring these programs to communities across the state of Montana because of generous support from donors like you. Please help us keep these programs going in Montana communities by giving us a call at 1-800-426-8243.
When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with 2 books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab. When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, The Measure of All Things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of The Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS.
We're just about to go back to The Last Artifact as you'll learn about the different competing approaches to solving this problem of the redefinition of the kilogram, so don't go away. We'll also have another conversation with Jamie and Ed about the making of this film. Thank you for your support of Montana PBS and great science films on this station. The number to call is right there on your screen. And now we go back to The Last Artifact.
The Planck constant. Named after the German physicist who discovered it, Max Carl Ernst Ludwig Planck. It's a fundamental constant that even top metrologists have trouble summing up.
If you go, well, let's see how I can do this. How would I got to think about this a bit more because that's a hard question to explain what Planck's constant is.
Oh, gosh, jeez.
Did we want to try and describe what Planck's constant is?
No.
The actual constant may be hard to explain, but the concept is easy enough. In the late 1800s, physics was facing a crisis. Physicists were trying to model atomic vibrations, but they kept getting it wrong. They had assumed that atomic vibrations were continuous. That is, they could vibrate at any frequency.
Planck came up with a kind of a crazy idea. He said, it's not a continuous process. It's always in little packets of energy that today we call photons.
Think of it like your morning coffee. When you order a cup of Joe, you can add sugar in 2 different ways. As a continuous stream, or as cubes. Planck postulated that you could only change energy in minimal increments like sugar cubes. And the field of quantum mechanics was born.
It was a surprise to everyone that energy was quantized, and it changed our understanding of physics entirely.
And because Planck's constant relates to energy, you can link it to an object's mass via Einstein's relativity equation. Energy is equal to mass times the square of the speed of light, using Planck's constant to redefine the kilogram. But first, metrologists have to measure it. Doing the heavy lifting for the Planck constant are labs like the National Research Council in Canada.
I spend a lot of hours, a lot of long, long hours. Physics runs on coffee for the most part.
Team members, including research officers in electrical measurements, Carlos Sanchez and Barry Wood, and dedicated dad and team leader in mass metrology, Richard Green, are led by Canada's chief metrologist, Alan Steele.
Intense, dedicated, you know, no fear of taking things apart and putting them back together over and over and over again until you get it right.
The NRC are joined by yet another set of Planck pioneers. From the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the United States of America. Team members include Chief of the Quantum Measurements Division and string strummer, John Pratt.
It's certainly a common stereotype, but I feel like it's a little bit of truth. The U.S. tends to be a little bit more freewheeling on these types of things. Ah, it's a great new idea. Let's go do that.
Leader of the Mass and Force Group and coffee aficionado Zeina Kubadish. Mass and Force Group physicist and technical tinkerer Patrick Abbott. And fundamental electrical measurements group physicist and should-be prize-winning pretzel maker Stefan Schlaminger.
I think we are a very strong team. I think there's almost no technical problem that we can't solve.
To derive the most precise and accurate possible value of Planck's constant, both teams are measuring a readily available supply of calibrated kilograms in an electromagnetic device called a watt balance.
The watt balance is simply a clever device that can weigh a mass using only electrical measurements.
The watt balance basic principle is you're comparing a gravitational force to electromagnetic force.
Think of it like a junkyard electromagnet. Larger cars have a greater gravitational force pulling on them, making them heavier. So more electrical current is required to overcome gravity and lift a heavier car. Except instead of pulling an object upwards, the watt balance electromagnet pushes it up against the force of gravity until the electrical force equals the mass of the now balanced object, without the need to compare it to anything on the other side of the scale. This gives the watt balance the ability to link electrical energy and its base unit, Planck's constant, to the mass of an object. But devising a device to measure the quantity of this force exactly required the genius of Dr. Brian Kibble, who cracked the engineering of the world's first watt balance at the National Physical Laboratory in the United Kingdom.
This laboratory was where the watt balance was born. Brian Kibble and I built the first one here.
Today, the balance is also called a Kibble balance in honor of its creator. His legacy lives on through the work of the lab's many contributors, including electrical measurement specialist Ian Robinson and research scientist Purdy Williams.
I don't think you could get a more British place than this crazy British lab. We have tea parties in the office, and there's a grand piano. I'd describe the basement lab as Ian's brain has just thrown up in a lab. Some of the most groundbreaking science is done in a messy, unorganised shed in the basement of a massive stately home.
Whilst NPL are no longer in the business of weighing kilos, they are leading the world in building affordable, miniaturized kibble balances for the masses.
We're now in the lucky position of being able to build a generation of balance that should take the balance out and make it egalitarian. Everybody in the world should be able to access this technology and contribute to the world mass scale.
And they're lending their expertise in watt balance building to a devilishly difficult task for good reason.
Measuring the Planck constant to the level that we need is extremely difficult.
Working with the watt balance is, I would say, an emotional roller coaster. Bring it down and have a look. And building this thing wasn't exhausting and kind of, oh my God, is it going to work, you know?
Can you see it?
Stop there.
The watt balance is a really, really hard experiment.
These instruments tend to have a certain character to them that only the people who built them can really make them work the way that they're supposed to work.
We need to consider about 100 different effects that affect the measurement.
From noise, temperature, magnetic fields, we need to measure all those things, and to a level that we haven't been able to measure before.
This is a big change we're proposing. We'd like to get it right.
After years of painstaking trial and error, a decision has to be made about which fundamental constant would redefine the kilogram. In 2011, the metrological community decrees Planck and its ability to link all electrical units in the SI as their constant of choice. But there's a twist, which means the work of the Avogadro teams can still contribute to the redefinition effort.
The Avogadro constant and Planck's constant are very close related to each other. If you have one of these two constants, you will get the second constant for free. And that's the way Planck's constant occurs in the silicon sphere. That's it.
The challenge now becomes that the Planck values from both experiments must match.
So if both projects result in the same numbers, then I think there is no doubt to redefine the kilogram.
If they don't, then something has gone very wrong. Today is one of the most important meetings of the Consultative Committee for Mass. Today is the deadline for the teams to get their results in.
Everybody's coming up with their answers at the very last minute. Canada's was just accepted about a week and a half ago. The German Avogadro number came about 3 or 4 days ago. The NMIJ one came out about 2 days ago. Just yesterday, I think it was, from the United States.
Today, they decide if the data is good enough to be put to the vote.
The CCM put up some conditions which should be fulfilled in order to go for redefinition.
We want to all have agreement on what the value for Planck's constant is, and a new value has come online which is controversially or maybe possibly a little bit out.
Some countries think that the criteria have been met, and others think they have not been met.
And this is now an intense discussion how we should proceed.
If they cannot reach an agreement, the whole redefinition could be called off.
For us, it would mean 4 more years of digging for uncertainties, and I don't think we can. I don't want to do that. I want to move on to other science.
As the debate becomes more heated, it continues behind closed doors.
1 year ago, I would have said everything's set for the redefinition. Now, in the recent times, I'm not certain if the current status of knowledge will be considered to be enough by the General Conference.
But in the always exciting world of metrology, nothing is ever straightforward. The teams have been given just 2 months to publish values in closer alignment for Planck's constant, or risk putting next year's redefinition vote in jeopardy.
Right now we should be writing, and we're still not writing our article, instead we're still doing measurements. So I think it will be a close call. I think we have to pull a bunch of all-nighters to get it done.
Once the papers are in, the Avogadro and Kibble balance teams will average their numbers to obtain the lowest possible uncertainty for the final fixed value of Planck's constant.
Uncertainty is always sort of this measurement of how confident you are in that number. The worst thing a metrologist can do is have a number that turns out to be outside their uncertainties, and that's our idea of hell, I think.
We still have some problems to solve, and I think the pressure is too big for the redefinition and for the redesigning of the SI.
I'm sympathetic to the conservatives, but I'm also a US guy, and I'm just like, let's change.
The final agreed numbers for Planck's constant roll in, fixing its value in the kilogram equation. There's nothing more the teams can do but wait. It's now up to the metrological community of the world to vote on whether their consensus value for Planck is good enough to redefine the kilogram.
We're going to Versailles to go and watch the vote. Well, we better redefine the kilogram. We've done too much work not to do it.
Today's vote will determine whether the kilogram will become an equation using Planck's constant, or if it will remain an artifact.
The fact we've got multiple experiments, multiple labs, means that we're pretty sure we've got the right answer. We're not pretty sure, we've got the right answer.
Now we're really getting close to a win-win-win situation, so it's nobody loses. So why would anybody want to delay? It's way past time to redefine.
You don't want science to ever be limited by one particular artifact or one particular laboratory or one particular experiment, and now we're ready. I think it's time.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have heard that the proposal for the revision of the SI is that it should be based on constants, on fundamental constants. Mr. President, I think we're ready to propose that.
Thank you. Each country will be called and you will say yes or no.
Canada, même chose en français. Oui. Oui. Tant mieux. Kenya.
Yes.
Inde, India. Japan.
Yes.
United States of America.
Yes.
Korea.
Yes.
Iran.
Yes.
China.
Yes. 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 Yes.
The definition of the kilogram is free from the artifact.
We've redefined the kilogram.
The vote was unanimous. Thank you so much.
To witness a historical momentum like that and be a part of it, I know that this is something I will remember forever.
It was the ride of my life. You know, it's a lot of fun.
We measure Planck's constant, but what people really want to see are the tats.
My tattoo in no way resembles my job role, but I have Keeper of the Kilogram tattooed on my back.
The idea of the French, that it would be a system of units for all people, for all times, I think we're really a lot closer to that now.
You know, I'm just overwhelmed with the community that was built and come to consensus and make progress, real progress for mankind.
In a monumental metrological moment, a democratic equation anyone can access at any time takes its place as the definition of the kilogram. While metrologists get back to work, the rest of the world continues, unaware.
Okay, so what's going to change when we change the kilogram? How is that going to affect the average person?
When the kilogram is new defined and when we do a good job, no one will notice it. But that's good.
When the person on the street will start seeing differences is when new technologies start getting built into better science or better products. I think that might happen in individualized medicine or cellular medicine or pharmaceuticals. The better we get at measuring something, the bigger the world of opportunity for scientific exploration becomes.
There's a new undiscovered land. You know, we have wiped out all the maps and say, okay, something completely new.
Some people think metrology is dull. They think it's some kind of accountancy. That completely misses the point. Metrology is looking closer and closer at things, seeing their form more perfectly, seeing them more clearly in themselves, and just appreciating the full wonder and beauty of the world we have around us.
So LeGrand K isn't really going away. It's going to be in that vault, but it's still going to be with us because its mass at the time of redefinition is essentially built into the Planck's constant. It's immortalized, if you will.
I feel quite weirdly protective over a lump of metal. And I mean, if they do want to get rid of it one way, I'm happy to take it home and look after it.
Don't go away. This film, while it's almost at the end, we have a very special treat to meet the filmmakers, the creative geniuses behind the telling of this story and the telling of the human part of the story. I so much love meeting all of these scientists, these quirky and interesting individuals. There's much more of a conversation yet to come with the filmmakers about the making of The Last Artifact. We hope you'll stay with us for just a few more minutes. The number to call there is on your screen when you pledge your support to Montana PBS. The number to call is 1-800-426-8243. When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with two books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab. When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, The Measure of All Things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of The Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS.
Hi, I'm Nikki Vredenberg, Director of Education at Montana PBS. One of my favorite things to do is to work with teachers all over Montana, helping them to use technology and digital media in their classrooms. Whether it's green screen video production or stop motion animation, it's so much fun to watch Montana kids get creative, showing what they know using digital tools. Our programs are free to teachers and meet teachers where they are, providing one-to-one coaching and mentoring, after-school peer collaboration, EdCamp events, and online learning opportunities. When you call and pledge your support for Montana PBS, you allow us to keep bringing these free programs to teachers all over the state of Montana. Call us now at 1-800-426-8243 and show your support for Montana students and their teachers. Or go online at montanapbs.org and pledge today. Thank you for your support.
While we have just a few more moments with both of you, Ed and Jamie, I just want to personally tell you how proud I am to be associated with this film and with both of you and this really creative and wonderful piece of art you've created to tell the story of science. And so congratulations to both of you. And I'd love to give you the opportunity to talk a little bit about your reflection on the making of the film and how it's being seen around the country and around the world. Jamie, maybe you start with you.
Yeah, well, I want to start by saying, Aaron, that I'm just so thrilled that we were able to work with Montana PBS on this project, because I think this partnership between independent filmmakers like Ed and myself and the station really allows these kind of untold stories that might never reach the light of day to be brought to audiences here in Montana, across the country, and even around the world. And it's just such a fabulous opportunity to get out, share why science is relevant in our world, and to, embark upon a creative process that gives you a lot of freedom and creativity to tell stories in unique ways that you might not otherwise. So we've just been so pleased with this partnership, and we're really thrilled to see that the film, beyond broadcast television, it's airing in countries across the world, yes, right now through film festivals. It just screened in Spain, I think it was last week, at the Lab Me Crazy Science Film Festival. It's shown in China at the China Science and Education Producers Conference. It's shown at the Imagine Science Film Festival in New York City. And we've just been so pleased at, how far it's been able to reach.
Ed, oftentimes, filmmakers are kind of quietly behind the scenes, busy with their headphones on, editing. And what does it feel like for you to actually have your creativity show up in people's living rooms?
I mean, it's always a wonderful thing to see something you've made in the real world going out there. And one of the great things about this project is it's a global story. It's a story that starts very small and ends up very large. It ends up encompassing the whole world at a fundamental level. And it's one of the few times actually in history where the whole world has got together and voted to agree to something. I mean, it's an incredible moment. And actually, one of the great things about working with PBS is using the distribution network that is in place. We've managed to get the film out and around the world as well. So it's not just people in, sitting in their home in Montana who are going to see this. It's people all over the globe. And that's a wonderful feeling, to know that people are seeing this story and seeing the impact of it.
My congratulations to both of you. And again, it's such a wonderful film. This will resonate with audiences for a very, very long time. It's a delight to share it on Montana PBS and to put it into our broadcast schedule, and also to share it with other public television stations. And our viewers may not realize that that stations just like Montana PBS, whether other stations like WGBH in Boston, all of us are a group of stations that come together to make films locally, just like we've made this film locally, but present it to national and international audiences. And that's how we make films in public television, and how we work with independent producers and obviously very creative and imaginative individuals like Ed and Jamie. So congratulations to both of you. I know you've already garnered significant awards with this film. I think there will be more to come. And thank you for spending time with us today to talk about this film. And thank you to our viewers up here at Montana PBS for your pledges of support. You're supporting filmmakers like all of us and helping us tell the next great science story on this station. The number to call is 1-800-426-8243. When you give an ongoing donation of $7 per month or a one-time contribution of $84, you'll receive your choice of The Last Artifact DVD or the book, The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler, a historical tale of two astronomers who set out on a mission to measure the world. When you give an ongoing donation of $9 per month or a one-time contribution of $108, we'll thank you with two books full of fun and engaging science projects for children, STEM Lab and Maker Lab. When you give an ongoing donation of $10 per month or a one-time contribution of $120, you'll receive a Roku, perfect for streaming your favorite Montana PBS programs on demand from your TV. When you give an ongoing donation of $12 per month or a one-time contribution of $144, you'll receive the DVD and the book, The Measure of All Things. When you give an ongoing donation of $21 per month or a one-time contribution of $252, we'll thank you with the DVD, the Roku, and your choice of The Measure of All Things or the STEM Lab and Maker Lab books. Please give us a call at 1-800-426-8243 or go online to montanapbs.org to make your donation now and support Montana PBS. I hope that you agree that The Last Artifact is a film that's entertaining, it's beautiful to watch, it's an artful piece, but it's also educational. And we've learned so much tonight about the purpose of the redefining the kilogram and what it means for the world, and how all of us, whether we're the very youngest in classrooms learning about The Last Artifact and understanding this science, to those of us that are lifelong learners in the later part of our lives, how public television plays a role in doing all of those, entertaining, sharing education, and enjoying the beauty of the world. And I hope that you will think about supporting Montana PBS. This is something we do all the time, 24/7 on this station, and it's only possible with the support of viewers like you who pledge and make it possible. So we hope you'll call the number there on your screen. We're about to end this program. We thank you for your support, and we wish you a good night, and thank you again. Bye-bye.